Artie's back there. You got a lighting person over there.
Yes. Only the best. We are Black MBA.
Excuse me.
All right. Well, welcome everyone. It is now 3 o'clock. We're going to get ready to start. My name is George Sainteus with the Sainteus Agency, also board member of the Metro New York National Black MBA Association. We have an exciting discussion for you. Could everybody hear me? Everybody wave. Can everybody hear me?
I can hear you.
All right, good. Okay, so in today's episode of Community Conversation, we are going to focus on wills, trust, and estate planning for millennials. Over the course of this very crazy week, we've heard a lot of activity in the market. We've heard a lot of very crazy stories. It is the first time in my life where I actually, thought that if something were to happen to me, will I have do I have my finances in order? Do I have my healthcare proxy? Do I have a will? All these things I started, but I never quite finished. Right? With all the stuff that's going on in life, I thought that it would be important for us to bring an expert to sort of identify, discuss, and really create some strategies behind not only wills, trust, and estate planning, but also transfer of wealth planning. We heard that the S&P index has dropped more than 30% since February 19th. And we're in an extreme volatile market right now. We heard that they're pushing back the April 15th tax deadline to July 15th. We heard that on March 15th, the Federal Reserve slashed federal funds by 0%. So with all that going on, we have this pandemic, right? And we have ambulance sirens all over. I'm in uptown Harlem. We have ambulance sirens all over the whole city, and you start thinking, what if God forbid I get stuck in one of those ambulances and I can't make decisions for myself? Do I have everything in order? And that's a scary thought, right? And I thought it was very important, especially now, to have folks start thinking about this. I myself I own an insurance, risk management, and community engagement agency. So my career is around protecting folks' lives, protecting folks' assets. But I need to protect my assets as well, and I need to have a plan, God forbid. So I brought a good friend of mine's, Lillie Nkenchor, our attorney here, and I love her to sort of introduce herself, and then we'll get into the discussion. All right. So Lillie.
Thanks, George. How are you today?
Yes.
You good?
Yes. I'm good. Awesome.
Good. Hello, everyone. I'm proud of all of you for joining today. I know you could be doing anything. Well, not too many things considering social distancing, but you could still be doing other things. And so I'm proud of you all for joining today. Again, my name is Lillie Nkenchor. I am an estate and business planning attorney, and I've been doing this type of work for about 13 years. I think this summer will be 13 years I've been doing this work. And I've always done it in a corporate climate, and I've always worked with really wealthy clients, business owners, and I've learned a lot, and I've seen a lot, and I've had clients from Seattle all the way to South Beach, Florida. And so I got to a point in my career where I said, I really feel like we should have this information. We should have someone that looks like us that's bringing this to us. So my job really, or what I feel is more like my purpose, not my job, is to bring this information to anyone and everyone in our community, kind of dispel some myths and help people avoid common estate planning traps. It's how we lose our wealth. It's how we lose our property. It's how we lose our land because we didn't plan properly. And so I'm just grateful to be here with you and with everyone else today. So thanks, everyone.
Thank you, Lil. Thank you. A little bit of housekeeping. What we'll do is we'll try to keep this discussion under an hour. and we'll try to keep 15 minutes before 4 for some questions. I'll try to get to as many questions as I can. If we don't get to any questions, I'll post an email on the comments of where you could send your questions, and we go from there. I also want to note that you could catch Lillie. Please let the folks know your Instagram handle.
Oh, the Instagram is Lillie, so it's LILLIE_Nkenchor, NKENCHOR _PC. I think it should be somewhere on the screen. It says NYBLACKMBA with Lillie Nkenchor PC. Follow me there. I usually create videos to break down some of the concepts, and I usually throw up a last minute tip, something that you can do right away to help your estate plan and to strengthen it.
Okay, perfect. And you can catch me at Harlem Insurance. Again, my handle is Harlem Insurance. Okay, so Lil, let's first start with the basic estate planning documents you would need right now.
Basic. Okay, so I'll name all 5 of them, and then we can go into it. So the basic are 5, which is a will, a power of attorney, a healthcare proxy, a living will, which is different from a will, and a revocable living trust. And the revocable living trust, you may or may not need it. It depends upon what your goals are. But at the very least, you need the other 4. So those are what I would consider the basic. Estate planning can get super complicated, and you have all sorts of other acronyms involved. But I think these 5 documents are what all of us should have, regardless of wealth, regardless of a lot of things. Because I think we think that estate planning is for that person over there, that person who has the money, who has the business, and it's like, no, it's for you. So those are the 5 basic documents.
Right. And now let's take a look at the will. What sort of aspects should a will, basic aspects that a will should have in terms of end of life documentation?
Yeah, a will doesn't have to be terribly complicated. So I don't want anyone to feel intimidated that they have to get this super 200-page will. A will just needs to do a couple of things. It needs to name the executor, meaning this is the person who's going to manage your estate when you're no longer here. So think of it like this. Let's just do worst case scenario. I'm no longer here. Someone needs to come into my house and arrange my affairs. Someone's going to notify people that I've passed away. Someone's going to go and get a copy of my death certificate and bring it down to the surrogate's court. Someone basically comes into your home, into your business, to be your executive assistant, to wrap everything up. You need to have a will that clearly dictates who that will be. And a mistake, this is a quick tip, a mistake that I see a lot, George, is usually someone will name just one executor. They don't have a backup. Because if something happens to your executor, or quite honestly, if they just don't even want to do it, who's going to be the backup? So the will should have who's going to be your executor. It should have who's going to be the guardian of your children if you have minor children. It should have instructions on what to do with your stuff in general. And then it should have your beneficiaries. So if you have that legal document that has the executor, the guardian of your children, and the beneficiaries, and it also covers what to do generally with your stuff, you'll be okay.
Got you. Okay. Now, I'm going to fast forward a little bit, but I've ran into some issues around some clients requiring bonding in order to get access to certain aspects of an estate, right? So talk to us about that process, because it creates a lot of tension, right? with the families, right? When a relative dies and they don't have any instructions of what to do with their assets, right? And so attorneys have to get involved, and it becomes much more expensive for the family, right? As opposed to if people would sort of plan ahead of time.
So 2 questions. I hear 2 questions there. Bonding, for those who are not familiar with that concept, it means that you require the executor to kind of put up money, put up capital in order to wrap up your estate. Most of my clients do not require their loved ones to do bonding. Actually, most people don't require bonding, but you do run into some interesting people who, for whatever reason, say that they want bonding. But you're right. The reason why we want the document, whether it's bonded or not bonded, is because otherwise you have to, the probate process is really extended if you don't have your will, right? So everybody has a will, to be clear.
Just back up for a second. Well, just wanted to get the audience to understand. Please explain what a probate process is.
Okay. Great question. So think of probate as the process of proving that your will is valid. We got to prove that you were in your right mind when you did it. We have to prove that you weren't coerced. Your will has all sorts of instructions that say, hey, Lillie said that George is going to be her executor. Is George alive? Where is George? Can anyone find George? Does George want the job? So all of those questions need to be answered through the probate process. So probate is just proving that the will is valid. So when you have a will, you still go through probate. When you don't have a will, you still go through probate. So you're not avoiding probate. You can make it less costly and less of a hassle, but you are going to go through probate. And the reason why I said everyone has a will is because if you don't have a will, then your state will give you one. It's called dying intestate. So the state of New York, which is where I am, will just say, oh, okay, we're going to give you the standard will. They don't take into consideration nieces, nephews, charitable organizations. They're just going to say, oh, if you're married and you die without a will, we're going to assume you would have wanted everything to go to your spouse. Or if you died without a spouse, but with children, we'll just assume you want everything to go to your child. They're not taking into consideration that maybe you and your spouse are estranged. They're not taking into consideration that maybe your children are not good with money. So that's why I say you can either have the boilerplate will that the state is going to give you, or you can have a will that you have control over.
And I just wanted to add one more thing too.
Yeah.
You could have a will that specifically address within the will, who would take on the responsibility to raising a child, who would take on the responsibility for the finances of the state.
Yeah, because I've seen a lot of couples get caught up. They have a minor child and they can't agree who raises our child when we're not here. Oh, my brother should do it. Oh, my sister should do it. No, my cousin's better with money. No, and I always tell people there's a personal guardian, which is the person that's going to be like loving up on your child, living with them, carrying forward the same values that you had. And then there can be a financial guardian that says, this person's really good with money. I know that they're going to be able to save for my child's retirement. They're going to have everything locked and key. They got Excel sheets and everything, right? So those two persons don't have to be the same. So if you feel like sister would be a better personal guardian and best friends would be a better financial guardian, that's okay.
Got you. Yeah. Okay, so now let's move on to the financial planning around estate planning. Let's talk a little bit about that.
Yeah. Did you also want to get into the other documents too?
You know what? We're running a limited time, so let's quickly breeze over those documents.
We'll do the documents.
The emergency documents. Yeah.
Okay, cool. All right. So we spoke about the will. The next one would be the power of attorney. This is just giving someone instructions, right? I'm looking at messages. You know what? You can read that question. You can tell me what they say.
So Norva, we'll hold the questions. Guardianship of children. Yep. Okay. All right. I got you, Norva.
Okay. Go ahead. So power of attorney. This gives someone else the right to make financial and contractual decisions on your behalf. So again, I'll just use you and me. I might say, listen, I need someone to step into my shoes when I'm incapacitated. I can't sign contracts. I can't go down to the local bank and withdraw money. I really trust you, George. I trust you. You have to choose someone you really, really trust, because when you give them that power of attorney, they technically can start acting on your behalf right now, even though you're not incapacitated. So I need to trust that you really wouldn't use that power until I become incapacitated. And it's important because we don't have access to each other's checking and savings account. You can't sign contracts in my name. But if I give you a power of attorney, then you can do that. Then the third document, go ahead.
And that becomes extremely important. I mean, I know we had a discussion about that client that they work 6 months out the country, right?
Yes.
And with that power attorney, they're able to continue their business through someone else.
Yes, I have a client that likes to kind of backpack through all sorts of exotic places, but they want their business to keep running. So she has given her sister the authority to sign contracts on her behalf, all of that type of stuff. And everyone knows that that person, her sister, is her power of attorney because there's a valid document. Now, the power of attorney ends when, let me talk about the parties. So if I give you a power of attorney, I'm the principal and you're the agent, because you're like my agent acting on my behalf, right? Like a sports agent, if you will. But that contract ends when I die. So when I die, you no longer have power of attorney over me. You might also be my executor, so then you can wear that new hat. But when I die, the power of attorney contract between you and I no longer exists.
Got you.
Yeah.
Got you. Okay.
What was the next one? Oh, healthcare proxy. Healthcare proxy. Yeah. It's similar to the power of attorney, ladies and gentlemen. Very, very similar, except that it applies in medical circumstances. Usually, it's not do or die circumstances, or like end of life circumstances. It might just be I got into a really bad car accident, and you come rushing to the hospital to see about me, and I'm just knocked out. Drugs, in a coma or something. So there's a chance of me recovering, but right now in this moment, I can't make medical decisions on my behalf. I can't even hear what the doctor's saying. I need someone like you, my agent, to come in and make those decisions. Imagine all the people right now who are being rushed to the hospital because they have really bad COVID symptoms. It would be nice to have a document that allows somebody else to make decisions on their behalf. A good amount of times, hospitals will defer to spouses, but not always. And what if this person is your longtime partner, but not your spouse?
Right.
Now the hospital's like, we don't know what to do because you're not married and you don't have a healthcare proxy. So now the doctor can't really take what you're saying into consideration. So think of a healthcare proxy similar to a power of attorney, but for medical purposes. And then the living will, that's more like end of life. You remember that case down in Florida, Shivo? She was in a coma. She was in a coma, and her husband wanted to pull the plug, but her parents wanted to keep her on life-sustaining measures. Yeah. The issue was like there was no power of attorney, and there was no living will. So nobody had any specific instructions as to what to do for her in that situation. So a living will basically says, if I don't have any chance of recovery, this is what I want you to do. I want you to maintain life-sustaining measures or don't maintain it. Keep giving me food or don't give me food. Keep giving me water or don't give me water, right? So it's a way for you to say, if you sit down with my doctor says, hey, I'm really sorry to tell you, George, but Lily's, she's brain dead and we don't think she's going to make her full recovery. You can look at my document and say, Lillie would not have liked to be on a respirator for the rest of her life. I think we should allow her to pass away naturally. And I can have that in writing in a document. And I know it feels scary. And I know sometimes people feel like, oh, you're wishing death upon me. I'm not. I just want you to be prepared, because understand that there's a lot of icky stuff that's left behind when you're not here. And just having these documents helps your family and friends process this a lot faster and a lot easier.
Yes, and Lil, talk to me about, there was a question that was posed around, can I have a simple document, get it notarized, and can that be my will? Talk to us about the fact that...
Who asked that question? Who's asking these questions?
I just wanted to address that specific question. I mean, we're holding the questions to the end, but I wanted to address that specific question because I know of instances where attorneys come to me for probate bonds, right, as an insurance professional, The stories that I hear is around multiple wills, around wills that are not the original, around things like that nature. So talk to us about that specific question around notarizing just a simple document.
Good question. Now, I will take my legal hat off and just talk friend to friend, whomever is asking the question.
Yes.
Technically, you can have a will with your instructions, super simple. You sign it, you have two witnesses sign it, and you have a notary stamp on it. Is it valid? Yes, it's valid. And if nothing ever happens between the date of the signature and your death and everything is perfect, then it's perfect, right? But the problem with that is, one, laws change, and you don't know that the laws have changed because you're not an estate planning attorney. So
Repeat that one more time. Repeat that one more time.
Laws change, but you don't know that the laws change because you're not an estate planning attorney. So you think that your LegalZoom document is all that you need. No shade to LegalZoom, but you think that's all you need, but you're not keeping up with it. First, that's the first thing. Secondly, life changes, right? And it's really helpful for you to have an advisor that you can go to and say, hey, we need to update this document because I just got married. We need to update this document because I just got divorced. We need to update this document because I just had a baby, I just adopted, I just started a business, I just sold the business. You want a partnership, just like people want a partnership with you, George, as an insurance advisor. I need to be able to come to you and say, I need more insurance, I need less insurance, I can't afford my premiums. You want a relationship with an estate planning advisor so that they can keep up with the changing needs of your family. So yes, technically you can get it done on your own with a notary, but I think these documents are living and breathing, and you need someone to live and breathe with you. It's not really a one and done thing. Does that make sense?
That makes sense.
Okay.
So to sort of talk about the emergency documents you need, a living will, a healthcare proxy, and what was the third one?
Power of attorney.
Power of attorney.
So I consider those emergencies. I need someone to get up real quick and go and act on my behalf. That's what I consider emergency. I don't consider a will an emergency document, but it's all part of the basic estate planning kit. And then we haven't even spoken about the trust yet, but those are the 4 documents so far.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So the trust discussion will be a much more detailed discussion, so we might have to save that one for our next series.
We will see. But just really quickly, there's all sorts of complicated trusts. All I would say is the difference between the will and the trust is the trust allows for more long-term distributions. So I could, let's say everything in my house, I could say everything in my house belongs to George. If that's what I want, I can do that in a will and be done with it, right? But if I say everything in my house belongs to George, but only when George reaches age 50, or George can only use my money if he's using it to buy his first house. If I want to have restrictions and I want to control how much you get, when you get it, and how you get it, then I put it inside of a trust. And that's really good for those people who have minor children. I don't know if you want to leave a big life insurance policy to a 19-year-old. So if you want to control how that goes down, then I would put that inside of a trust.
Right.
Yeah.
So, and that's all around the financial planning connected to estate planning, right?
Yes.
One of the things I wanted to talk about, I wanted to switch gears a little bit and talk about, we talk about business succession planning. I know we have some entrepreneurs on the line. I see a couple of them coming up. Talk to us about how to, your emergency documents around business succession and planning, and then also how you work with advisors such as myself to fund situations where business owners pass away.
Got it. So with respect to business owners, shout out to all the business owners. There are a couple of documents that I think you should have, especially if you have more, if it's not just you, if you have a business partner. Don't go well. Because a lot of times when we get into business, I'm like, George, that's my homie. We're going to do it. We're getting into this manufacturing business. Everything is great, but we don't have any operating agreement. Because the purpose of all of these legal documents, George, is between the two of us when things aren't very clear. That's okay.
I'm still on the clock. I'm still on the clock, even though you're doing the seminar. So my clients are calling me left and right. So
that's all right. Well, I understand. So an operating agreement is what I think partners need to figure out what happens when things don't go right. When you and I aren't seeing things eye to eye, we need something that can be the tiebreaker, the police officer, the mediator, something in between us. That's why an operating agreement is really important. And then the other second document, which is important, is a buy-sell agreement, meaning when something happens to me, you get my 50% in this business. Let's assume you and I both own a manufacturing company 50-50, right?
Right.
Technically, when I die, my 50% goes to my estate.
Exactly.
So my children, my husband, they get it. So now you're not in business with Lillie. You're in business with Lillie and her family back there, right? A buy-sell agreement makes sure that the business ownership stays between you and I. So it's 50-50 now, but if one of us dies, then the other person becomes the 100% owner, and then the family gets the cash, so everyone can walk away as peacefully as possible.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, I in the capacity of providing insurance for my commercial clients, I do a lot of key person life insurance policies, right?
Okay.
As part of business continuation plans, business succession plans, and I always find it fascinating. Business owners, and I am guilty of this too. We think we're gonna last forever.
Yes, I know.
What do they say, right? Nothing in life lasts forever, but death and taxes, right?
Yeah.
So they're definitely hesitant, but once you sort of paint that picture of your business that you sort of build up from the ground up, having a tool like life insurance to be able to fund that for generations to come to support your family forever,
right?
In a sense, they really start seeing the benefit of that. So I appreciate those. Okay, so now we gotta pump it up a little bit. Push it to high gear. We're not going to get too deep into this, but these are the more complicated wealth transfer strategies around estate planning, right? We talked about the irrevocable trust. Did we talk about irrevocable trust yet?
We spoke. No, we didn't. We spoke about revocable trust.
Let's talk about irrevocable trust as it relates to wealth planning, so that just so people can get a taste of some of the tools out there. Because when I learned about irrevocable trust, I was so fascinated about it.
There are many people who learn about trust and get fascinated. So thank you for being fascinated. So we spoke about the revocable trust. Think of the revocable trust as really just an extension of you. It's a separate entity, but it has your tax ID number. You can make changes. You can change the name of the trustees. You can put assets in. You can put assets out. It's kind of like your own personal piggy bank. And the reason people like the revocable trust is because it skips the probate process. Remember before we spoke about how the will must go through probate? A revocable trust, a trust does not go through probate. So a lot of times people like that. Irrevocable is really more for those people who say, I'm kind of wealthy and I want to start moving assets into this irrevocable trust, because the irrevocable trust, think of it as a completely separate entity from you. It has its own separate tax ID number. You can't go in and make any changes. You can't treat it like your own personal account. You're getting it completely out of your name. And the reason people do that is because the golden rule is if you don't own it, they can't tax it, right?
Right.
If you don't own it, they can't tax it. It's why people put things in their mom's name. Like, that's not mine. That car is in my mom's name. That house is in my mom's name. Same thing with the irrevocable trust. You're basically looking at the IRS and saying, that's not mine. That's inside the trust, right? So, if I'm wealthy enough where I want to start getting things out of my name so that I can decrease the taxes that I owe, but at the same time leave more to the next generation, I'm going to lean more towards the irrevocable trust.
And so you could put items like homes in these trusts, right?
Yes.
What about businesses? Can you put businesses in these trusts?
You can. I would probably lean more towards a different structure for trust, and that'll probably be another community conversations with respect to businesses. But technically, yes, think of a trust as a person. Just like I can own anything, I can own a car, I can own a business or a building. Same thing with a revocable or an irrevocable trust.
Okay.
Yeah.
Now, we talked about emergency documents. We talked about business succession planning.
Mm-hmm.
We talked a little bit about wealth transfer strategies, but I think we need to give the folks one more thought on wealth transfer strategies.
Okay.
As for the overall, not just business, but overall things that they should at least have in the back of their mind as it relates to wealth transfer.
Right. Well, a couple of things. Firstly, the reason we're having this conversation is because I think you're passionate about it as well. I'm passionate about it. I know New York Black MBA is about creating more wealth within our communities. Right. And a lot of times people think I need to be a millionaire in order to leave wealth. But the true answer is you just need to be smart stewards of whatever you have. And that will start the process of wealth building. And so the reason we're talking about all of this is because a lot of us lose our wealth because we don't plan well. I have a client now who passed away. He wasn't married. He didn't have kids. And he never named the beneficiary on his retirement accounts. It is stuck at a business right now that I won't name. It's stuck there because they don't know where it's supposed to go. So now we're fighting with the local courts to get money. That's money his family could have used to start a business by now. That's money his family could have used to buy a rental income property and create a stream of income for the family so that when something like this happens and people lose their jobs, there's still money coming in. So all of these things are to basically get us a little bit smarter, stay on top of our finances a little bit better so that we can create wealth. So some of the tips I would say is avoid what my client did, which is name beneficiaries on your accounts. You know this. George, you probably hammer people all the time about it, right?
I'm always changing it too, you know.
Go look who's the beneficiary of your retirement account. Who's on your checking account? Name that stuff. Who has the deed to the land? Is it the deed to the house or is it the deed to the land? Because it's different.
Ensuring proper titling, right?
Right. We meaning sometimes people in our community will lose homes because there's this assumption that so-and-so knows that that's what I wanted to happen, or so-and-so knows I wanted them to leave the house to them, but there's nothing in writing. Absolutely nothing. And nobody can talk to the dead. Even if you have those gifts, that is not going to hold up in court.
Right.
Okay? So we have to be smart stewards of our assets. So that starts with naming beneficiary designations on our accounts. It starts with proper titling.
Right.
And number 3, which should have been number 1, is debt is always going to get in your way of passing on wealth. Hands down. Just something as simple as, let me get a little bit of mortgage protection to pay my mortgage when I die. Because I don't want my child to now have to pay her mortgage and my mortgage. I don't want my child to have to pay her bills and my bills. Let me at least leave a stash of money on the side so that they can use that to wrap up my affairs. Because we don't understand how costly and how time-consuming these things can be. So I would say, again, naming beneficiaries and being smart stewards of our money, proper titling, even if you have just a little bit of life insurance just to cover debt so that it's not a financial burden on the people left behind you. I think that would be fantastic.
And one second, I want everybody to raise their hand if they have life insurance. If you have life insurance, raise your hand. Okay? Life insurance is one of the most simple gifts that you could give a family, right? To ensure generational wealth, which is really what this main conversation is about.
Right. I agree. I love how you're talking about generational. I see hands. Look at all these hands.
If you have life insurance. Simple life insurance policy is what you need, especially these times.
Good. And you know what's really good?
How you doing, Rita?
I spoke at the top of the call about how I work with lots of different people, business owners, wealthy. Like, I've met some super wealthy people. And life insurance is one of the ways they transfer wealth to the next generation. They're just thinking, it cost me, hypothetically, it cost me $20,000 to get $2 million. And when my family gets the $2 million, it's all tax-free.
Mm-hmm.
Why wouldn't that? Because now, and then I put the $2 million in a trust. So now it's not like you're taking the money and buying Ferraris. Now I have instructions that say this is to be used for a down payment on your first home in case you can't come up with the full 20%. This is seed money for your business. This is college education funding so that you don't come out of law school with over $100,000 in debt, right? So this is how we create wealth, by just giving people seed money and relaxing the financial burdens just a little bit. I feel like in our community, even if we just had a little bit of seed money, we would take that and run with it.
I totally agree. Yeah. You know, the way I approach life insurance is always, of course, there's the after-death benefit that you get, but also consider the benefit that you get now, in terms of borrowing against your life insurance policy in times of need, just as we are now, right? In terms of, if you have to send your kid to college, you can borrow against that life insurance policy to do so. And it's all tax-free money, right? Yeah. So the small policies that we get for life insurance policies, they have tremendous benefit, and I hope folks realize that. So that discussion, we can get more detail into that at a later time. Right. But it's been a great discussion.
It has been.
It's been a great discussion, and I honestly feel that we could keep going on. But I see a lot of questions, and so I wanted to sort of end it and sort of start getting to those questions. But one of the first questions that just popped up right away was the cost associated with what we discussed here, in terms of, how much does it cost to average cost for a will, average cost for estate planning, just, nothing set in stone, but
I know
some people think you need to be very, very wealthy to utilize these services, right? Right. So we want to dispel that myth.
Yes, we do. And I know people will probably hate this answer, but the answer is it depends. It depends it depends on the complexity of your concern. It depends upon the attorney. I mean, an attorney that has like an all-glass building in downtown Manhattan is going to charge more than the attorney that's in like rural Pennsylvania. You know what I mean? But I would say in this New York City demographic, a will should be between $500 and $800. A trust will probably be between $1,000 and $2,500, depending upon who you go to. And most advisors, most attorneys, even such as me, I would prefer to do the whole kit, because now I have a system that's talking to each other. I'm not doing it piecemeal. Let's do your will, your power of attorney, your healthcare proxy, your living will, and your trust, if you need one, all at once, and that'll usually be a flat fee. So I know money's relative. I don't think a trust for $600 or $650 is a lot. Right. If it is a lot and you need to go the cheaper route, but then go in the back of your mind, I need to update this. I need to really sit with an attorney and not just print something off of, Google.com.
I need to lock in those prices. Those are really good prices. Finish up our will with you too.
I'll give NYBLACKMBA a discount.
You hear that, Norval? You hear that?
I will. I'm really proud of you guys for being on the phone, being on IG Live with us. So honestly, I will definitely help anyone here, and we will make it as cost effective as possible based on your budget.
Okay. So I'm going through the questions right now. There's a series of questions around 401ks. This is not the discussion to talk about 401ks, but I'm sure the association is going to, we have a series of financial seminars coming up, and make sure you follow us to find out when those dates are, where we will go into 401ks, we'll go into IRAs, etc. Okay, so let's open it up to some official questions.
Okay.
Go ahead with the questions.
Yeah, are you reading the questions or am I reading the questions?
No, I'm reading the questions.
Okay.
I'm reading the questions.
Okay.
Can you see them?
I can see them. I can see them.
Okay. All right. Okay, so Kavern said April 7th at 4 p.m. we have a webinar.
Oh, on the 401k stuff?
No. Yeah, Kavern, is it on the 401k stuff or? He's gonna let us know. But anyway, the floor is open to questions.
I don't know how IG Live works. Can you scroll up and see old questions or?
Yes, actually. Let's see. Okay.
William Wright wants to know what would be the cost for all 5 documents. I'll speak for myself. Again, depending upon the complexity and the number of assets you have, I have bundled that as a flat kit for $3,000. So for the $3,000, you get the trust, the will, the power of attorney, the healthcare proxy, the living will. I make updates. I live with you, literally. I live with you with the document. So as changes come up in the future, we can make changes to the documents. We make sure it's printed, bound. I pay for the notary so that you can have it official, that whole bit. Can you add cryptocurrency? I'm sorry, William. I hope that answers your question. Can we add cryptocurrency to an irrevocable trust and leave it there? Yes, cryptocurrency can be owned by a trust. So if you have cryptocurrencies, you would have to check with the institution that you've used to purchase it and make sure that they allow those cryptocurrencies to be owned by non-persons, like a trust. And if it can, then it can.
Right. Okay. And someone posted a question about holographic wills. Have you heard holographic wills? Have you ever heard of that?
Yes. So I saw a question about minors, so I'll get to that and the holographic wills. Holographic will is a handwritten will. There's only a few states in the country that allows holographic wills. New York does not allow handwritten wills, except if you are in armed services and you're at battle and you write it kind of in the throes of, oh my God, I think I'm going to die, then New York will recognize that. But other than that, New York does not recognize handwritten wills. But that's a good question. Good question. I see y'all know things. Somebody said something about, I wish the questions were moving so fast. Someone, can you please ask your question again about minors being beneficiaries of accounts? Something like that. Is that cost for an individual or a couple? That is for an individual. So that bundle for the 5 documents that I mentioned, that is for individuals. So for a couple, it would be twice that amount. Good question. I think
someone asked a question about the underage beneficiaries.
Yes.
You put the child's name, even though they would be under 18 if anything happens?
I wouldn't, because here's what happens. Okay. Let's say I have a life insurance policy and I put my daughter as the beneficiary. She's 6 at the time, but by the time I pass away, she's only 12. The institution will hold on to that money and wait for 2 things. The institution will wait until my daughter turns age 18, or the institution will hold on to it until my estate can produce a guardian, a financial guardian, that says, I'm Lillie's daughter's financial guardian. This is the paperwork that says that. Distribute the money to me or to the special account for this little child. So it really, really slows down the process. So I wouldn't name a minor the beneficiary of anything. Always name a trust the beneficiary if that is your concern. Sometimes people say, well, my sister is going to take care of my daughter if I died, so can't I just name my sister the beneficiary of the policy? You could, but death and money changes people very quickly, and I would hate for sister to be the beneficiary and just go to Vegas. So I would avoid that strategy.
I'm sure that happens a lot,
It
right?
does. You'd be surprised. You'd be surprised.
So somebody asked a question about should life insurance be in the same process as setting up your estate? And the answer to that question is 100% yes.
And you heard it from the source. There you go.
Does the irrevocable trust get reported on the income taxes?
That's a great question. So if you have an income generating asset inside an islet, the islet is its own separate entity. So the islet will have to pay taxes on that income. Right? So it has its own tax ID number. So let's say I'm looking at a rental building right across the street. Let's say this generates $50,000 of income every year. And inside of my islet. My islet needs to prepare a tax return every year to pay the taxes on the $50,000. But here's the catch. The trust tax rate is much higher than the individual tax rate.
Right.
So in the trust, once the trust makes more than $2,000, it's already at the 39.6% tax bracket.
Right.
So I don't want my trust to pay 39%. I want my trust to distribute the income to the trust beneficiaries and have them pay the taxes, because presumably they're in a lower tax bracket than that of the trust. So can it own it? Yes. Will taxes need to be paid? Yes. It's better for the individuals to pay the tax than it is for the trust to pay the tax.
Excellent.
Yes.
Okay, hope we answered that question.
Yes, and islet, somebody made a good point here. Islet means irrevocable life insurance trust. Stop us if we use acronyms. Islet is irrevocable life insurance trust. And even though it says life insurance trust, that's not the only thing that can be held inside that trust. All right,
Lil, so I'm gonna have you go through the rest of the questions. Just pick a few that you can.
Life insurance from your employer may not be enough. You might need additional. I totally agree. I have additional, because the life insurance through your employer is just for as long as you're employed there.
Right.
So if I die while I'm employed, then yes, my family gets the death benefit. But once I leave for whatever reason, there goes the life insurance. So you should have some life insurance outside of your employment. And plus, they usually limit how much insurance you can get on yourself anyway, because they're the ones who are paying for it, right? So if I want more, and my employer doesn't want to give me more, then I need to go get more.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah. There's a diagram we use in terms of coming up with what your state.
There was a question about who assumes the debt of the estate. The debt belongs to the estate. That's a very good question. So let's say my aunt passes away and I'm the executor of her estate. That doesn't mean I personally take on her bills. Her bills are still owed by her estate. It's her estate that's supposed to pay these bills, right? Now, if there's not enough money in the estate to pay the bills, then we're probably going through some type of bankruptcy filing and things of that nature. It'll probably be a situation where the things that she had in mind to leave as gifts and inheritance to certain people, they probably may not get it, because your bills need to be paid first before your beneficiaries collect. So if my goal is to leave you $50,000, but I owe $75,000, that creditor comes in, takes the $50,000, and now that beautiful gift that I was supposed to give to you doesn't exist anymore. So it is still the responsibility of the estate, and if there's not enough money, then it's a bankruptcy proceeding and all of that. If some of the debt was co-signed, then maybe the co-signer would be responsible, but the beneficiaries in and of them, just because you're a beneficiary doesn't mean you take on the debt of the estate. But that's an excellent question. Thank you. How do we contact you if you need work? Follow me on Instagram and then DM me. I think you can see my name up there. That might be easier than trying to flash you my business card. Lillie _Nkenchor_PC. DM me and we can set up a call and do whatever it is you need to do.
Excellent.
Thank you. You're welcome. Do you see more questions?
Okay.
I probably missed some, but so many already.
Let's see. Let's take one more question. All right. Life insurance. Okay.
Thank you, Neb. Thanks, Sunshine. Appreciate you being here.
Okay. Okay, so somebody had a question. I think we may have answered this, but if we didn't, let me know, Lil. If I receive my parents' estate and I am responsible for their debt, can I tell creditors that they have passed away?
Why would you be responsible for their debt?
Right. Right.
unless you co-sign a liability, you are not personally responsible for your parents' debt. So if they have debt, your job as the executor is to try to wrap it up and let the debtor know, hey, my parents have passed away. I know they owed you $7,000, but there is no $7,000, so you'd have to go through that process. But they're not then coming after your personal checking account.
Right. I guess maybe that question is more around what sort of debts get passed on to a next of kin.
Okay, so that's a good question. All right, so debts only get passed on to those persons who signed or co-signed for the debt. In some few localities, the debt of your spouse belongs to you. But outside of that, I have not seen a situation where, your debt can just go to your beneficiary or your debt can just go to your brother just because you guys are brothers, right? Someone asked a question about, in situations like these, is life insurance more expensive? No, but you are also, I'll let you handle that since you're the insurance guru.
No, I mean, life insurance is really based on a person's current status in terms of health, age, financial situation. And what I mean by financial situation, you can't, you can't request like a $10 million life insurance policy if you don't have, a sort of comparable amount of money coming in your current situation, right? So that's why I mean it fluctuates now. So the reality of the question is that life insurance doesn't change based on the current the corona situation. I mean, if anything, they're making it much more easier to get life insurance. They have the insurance industry overall. I mean, I've been in the business for since 2006, right? And so it's a very archaic system in terms of very paper driven. But what I'm noticing, what the coronavirus pandemic did was that it started moving them towards a more virtual environment. So now submitting applications are easier. Getting coverages, getting quotes faster now, right? Because of the virtual push. So this is a great time to get life insurance, right?
Right. Totally agree. Also, someone asked a question about contacting me. In addition to social media, just go to LillieNkenchor.com, LillieNkenchor.com, and you can contact me there. Someone had a question about, if I leave my personal residence, like my home, to a beneficiary, do they get the home loan debt? Yes. So if my mom leaves her home to me and there's still a $75,000 mortgage on it, well, I'm the owner now. I am going to be responsible for selling or for paying that mortgage. I might sell it and just be done with it, but if I want to keep it, then I assume the balance of that debt because now it's mine. She left it to me. But that's a very different situation than what we spoke about before, where no one left me anything, but somehow I got the debt, right? No, if I give you something that has debt associated to it, with it, then that becomes yours as well. That's why I was saying...
It was too good. They kicked us out.
I'm like, wait a minute. DJ Nice be out here.
I mean, we were on for about a little bit over an hour.
Okay.
So I don't know if it's...
I don't know. Because I've seen people have really long IG. Like DJ Nice has been like DJing for 73 days now. And I have not seen them kick him out. So I don't know what's happening.
That was the weirdest thing. So, well, we're getting If it was too high.
I see normal. Information was too high.
All right. I mean, we're going to give it another 5 minutes. Let folks rejoin. That's good that we still have folks rejoining. So
that's good. Thank you all for coming.
You know, it looks like we may have to get you on live again, Lil.
No problem.
I think we have a lot of questions left unanswered, and we want to make sure we get to all of them. But shortly after this video, our communication team is gonna post the links to get your questions answered, as well as post other seminars and webinars that we're having, virtual seminars and webinars. So be on the lookout for that, folks. But I guess if you have, for the folks that's joining now, if you have some questions, please post. And our communication team said that if you need one-on-one consultation, you can email him at vpcomm@nyblackmba.org. Okay, VP Communication, so vpcomm@nyblackmba.org if you need one-on-one consultation. But the reality of the situation is, folks, that we have to take our emergency documents very serious in these times. We have to ensure that if anything were to happen to us, proper procedures are in place in terms of how the life after death scenario. And so we were glad that there was so much interest in this topic, and I'm glad that we had Lil to sort of help us out and navigate.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
So I'll give it about 2-3 more minutes if there's any questions.
Yes. And let me add.
Let me jump in here real quick.
Okay.
So talk to me about some of the most interesting cases you had. Obviously we're leaving names out, right? But in terms of people transferring things, once they pass away, what's been some interesting cases you had?
Interesting.
Especially around pets, right? Pets.
I have had a couple.
And the reason I'm asking that, I know the world is in frenzy with this Tiger King Netflix series, right?
Yes. Did you watch it?
I watched a little bit of it.
Okay.
But it was very quite interesting. So
Kyle wants to know: do people leave things to cats? Yes, they do. And to be clear, it's not that they're leaving it to the cat. They're just saying, if my pet outlives me, here's this little bit of money set aside for my sister, my best friend, so-and-so, to take care of my pet. People love their pets, so
right.
It's what we do. So that used to be very peculiar to me when I would hear someone say, what about my pet? I'm like, what about your pet?
Right.
But
we all love our pets. We all love our pets,
In the past, I would say 7 to 10 years, I've seen an increase in it. In fact, they now have pet trusts.
Pet trust. That is new.
That is new. That is part of my suite of services now. If you want a pet trust, I can create a pet trust for you.
Norval, you hear that, Norval? Pet trust.
The other thing, it's not salacious, but what I run into a lot is people who have blended families. Mm-hmm. So they have a daughter and a stepdaughter, for instance. Sometimes it can get emotional because they're like, I love my stepdaughter, but I want this asset to go to my bloodline. Mm-hmm. So they have these uncomfortable conversations about how to make that happen.
Right.
I can understand why it's uncomfortable, and I don't want you to feel guilty about it. But that comes up very often about how to do that. A lot of times the parents just decide, hey, you leave what you want to leave to your biological children. I'll leave what I want to leave to my biological children. And everyone will get something. So that gets rid of the anxiety of, I don't want my stepdaughter to feel like I don't love her because I didn't leave anything for her. That comes up very often. I've seen people be very rigid with respect to the gifts that they leave to beneficiaries. I remember a person when I first started said, I'm leaving you this money for educational purposes, but only if you go to Harvard. Now, to be fair, there was legacy in the family. So there were like 2 other people who had attended and graduated from Harvard. So grandfather's thinking was, I want my granddaughter to also go to Harvard. But I was like, I get it. But if she doesn't go to Harvard, you're not going to give her tuition money? Like, there's other good schools, right? So I looked at him across the table like, are you okay? Are you okay? One of the things I'd love to say before this thing kicks us off again is, again, don't think of wealth building as you need to be wealthy to leave something to someone. I think it's just smart stewardship, and I think it's not the greatest gift that we can give our kids is just not giving them debt. Hands down. What I've seen, you would not believe the millionaires that are out there simply because they had seed money, or simply because they had the space to experiment. They had the option to fail. I don't know where I read this or I heard it. It was something about how a lot of times people of color don't have the option to fail because you're the first to go to school. So-and-so's, you're an example to so-and-so. You have to take care of your mom and your aunt and your great aunt. So you don't really have that flexibility to say, actually, I'd really like to start this insert business XYZ.
Right.
If we can start giving our children the option to choose their own destiny, and we can not leave them with debt, we are on our way to wealth building in our communities.
Excellent, excellent. So I'm going to end the discussion now. We still have quite a bit of people joining us, but this was very informative conversation. The next time we'll try to make sure that it lasts longer than the hour that we really had planned. But thank you, folks, for joining.
Thank you.
And we have. Do you want to answer this last question, Lil?
Yes. Excuse me. If cost is a factor, can you advise what documents are essential to be completed first? Will and healthcare proxy.
Okay. All right. You heard that, folks. Will and healthcare proxy, the most important 2 documents that you need as relates to this discussion. Okay. All right. So thank you, guys, ladies and gentlemen. That is it for us. And make sure you follow NY Black MBA. Make sure you follow Harlem Insurance, and make sure you follow. Go ahead, Lil.
Lillie _Nkenchor _PC.